I'd like to call the Finance Ways and Means Committee to order for April 16th, 2024. Mr. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Representatives Barrett, Boyd, Camper, Cochran, Crawford, Faison, Freeman, Gant, Garrett, Hawk, Hicks of Hawkins, Hicks of Washington, Kiesling, Lamberth, Love,
Zachary.
Lynn, McKenzie, Miller, Moon, Parkinson, Shaw, Sparks, Whitson, Williams, Zachary, Vice Chairman Baum, Chairlady Hazelwood. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Do we have any personal orders or announcements? Seeing none, I would just welcome our visitors and tell them they win points for persistence and ability to sit through long explanations of financial matters. A couple of ladies told me that they managed not to fall asleep. They consider that to be they've met a great challenge during our previous subcommittee meetings. So without ado, with no further orders, we are going today take our no personal orders. We're going to take up the appropriations calendar that was just passed out of subcommittee. All the documents are available on dashboard. The schedule can be found on the amendments for House Bill 2973. So with that, Chairman Baum.
Okay, item number 1 on our calendar is House Bill 2973 by Chairlady Hazelwood. We've got a motion and a second on the bill. We do have 3 amendments. The first one is amendment number 1, drafting code 018434 by Chairlady Hazelwood. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Chairlady Hazelwood, you're recognized for an explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is simply the reset amendment.
Okay, with that explanation, any discussion? Okay, if not, then we are voting on the amendment, putting the amendment on the bill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The amendment goes on the bill. Second amendment is drafting code 013900 by Leader Lamberth. Motion and second.
Second.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the administration's amendment to the budget, and it has been properly described in the subcommittee.
Okay, with that explanation, any discussion? Question's been called. We are voting to put amendment 013900 on the bill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The amendment goes on the bill. Amendment number 3 is drafting code 015000. We've got a motion and a second on the amendment. Chairlady Hazelwood, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the legislative amendment and really makes the budget. With that, I would.
Okay, and the amendment that we're adopting is the amendment schedule.
Okay.
And you have a copy of it. I believe what we're going to do is we're going to put the amendment on the bill and then hear a discussion of the bill with all the amendments on. So with that explanation, all in favor of putting the amendment on the bill, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment goes on the bill. And now, Chairlady Hazelwood, you are recognized on the bill, House Bill 2973.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is House Bill 2973 is the appropriations bill. We went through a lengthy explanation in subcommittee. I'm hopeful that finance full members were watching. I will kind of hit the highlights. If you have questions, then we'll certainly attempt to answer those. But as just general overview, this budget is $52.8 billion. That is down from $62.8 billion last year. $25.6 billion of that comes from state appropriations, $19.8 from federal, and then $8 billion from other revenues. We all know that we have decreased revenues, we have decreased federal funding that made this a tight budget year, but because we were able to earmark some expenditures, we were able to do, I think, we were able to make this budget one that continues to do the good work of the state of Tennessee in a way that Tennessee taxpayers can afford and would appreciate. The budget does have 0.5% growth built in for this coming year. That is compared to last year when we had a 7.7% growth. Again, Another reason that this budget was a bit challenging in terms of funding, much more challenging than we have dealt with in the past few years. The last two budgets have also benefited greatly, as does this one, from historically high earnings from the treasurer's investments. Our major expenditure areas are health and social services. We're taking $302.7 million from the shared savings, TennCare shared savings, and we're obligating it towards programs in two key areas. That's rural health and behavioral health. We are using some of these dollars, earmarking dollars from in this budget for hospital buybacks, for the services that the hospitals provide, that allows us to draw down federal matching dollars. We are using these dollars to shore up our rural hospitals, which continue to face challenging economic situations, as well as our safety net hospitals and all the hospitals across Tennessee that provide uncompensated charity care. We're also earmarking $12.3 million from TennCare reserves for nursing homes. Again, they face some of the same financial challenges that we've mentioned to our regarding our hospitals. One of the things that I do want to take a moment to highlight is our increase in this budget. We have increased the personal needs allowance for nursing home residents, those residents who their only income basically is Social Security. Their Social Security goes to the nursing home to pay for their care. They are allowed $50. That was last changed the early 2000s. $50 a month is all of the income that they have that they can, buy snacks with, or get their hair done, buy new clothes. That's really just, it is not sufficient. So we're raising that by $20 to $70. It's still not a lot of money for a whole month, but it's certainly better than 50. And I think it's something that your nursing home residents will be appreciative of, as will their families. And I think it's one of the main things that state government or that government does, and that's take care of vulnerable people who cannot take care for themselves. This is a means of doing that. And so I want to thank the committee for supporting that. We also have $32 million that is paying for pay increases for our DSPs. And another thing I want to highlight is $15 million in non-recurring funding for Child Care Improvement Fund. This will be used for grants to improve access and availability of quality child care across the state, which is important for so many reasons. One of being our workforce crisis. We have people who can't work because they don't have appropriate child care. This will be going to help that situation. In K through 12 education, we are spending a total of $6.8 billion. That's $6.8 billion on education in this budget. There's $261.3 million in it recurring for TISA. And that $261 million covers the growth rate in ADM, increases in inflationary increases for medical insurance, retirement for teachers. And one of the things that this does that, again, I think we can all be really proud of, it keeps us on track towards our goal that by the fiscal year 26-27, the minimum teacher pay in Tennessee will be $50,000. In last year's budget, it was $42,000. This year, it's $44.5. Again, this keeps us on track to make that goal. Just highlights higher education, $17.2 million in recurring funding. That's to take care of to fully fund the outcome-based funding formula. We have a number of things that we're doing in the areas of law and safety, $17.4 million. $11.4 million of that is recurring. That will be used for 60 new trooper positions. And there's also $750,000 non-recurring funding that will be used for grants statewide. Any religious organization statewide can apply them for security grants for houses of worship. And this budget also is funding 4 new trial courts. That is the 4th, 19th, 18th, I didn't say that in order, did I? 4th, 18th, 19th, and 23rd districts. And there is money in this budget to begin to address a huge problem that is helping to clog up our courts, and that is the fact that we had not raised our compensation, our hourly compensation for indigent attorney fees since 1997. It's at, we are raising that by $10 an hour. It's not going to, make the problem go away, but it is at least going to mitigate it. And we are also in this budget, we have $4.4 million to youth villages to continue their gun violence prevention and their intervention programs. We are spending money in the area of parks and conservation. There's $20 million for recreational access points so that more Tennesseans have easier access to Tennessee waterways. $10 million for Bill Dance Signature Lakes, and then $66 million for funding for state parks, and that would include capital projects. In economic development, we have the fewest counties on the distressed list that we've ever had, but we still have counties that are distressed who are not reaping the benefits of the economic boom that's hit most of the rest of Tennessee. So these grants will allow these counties still on the distressed list, provide them funding for site development so that they will have industrial sites that will be shovel ready, that they can show business prospects. It will provide for community asset improvements, marketing their communities, and downtown revitalization grants. There's SBIR matching funds of $10 million in this budget. Again, I think this is one that I hope that you've heard from your constituents about, because it's a drawdown. It allows us to draw down federal dollars, and these grants go to companies that are startups or companies that are, already in phase one, ready to move up to another level, but they just need some funding in order to do that. This allows Tennessee to grow our own businesses from scratch, and I think it's critically important that we continue to fund that. There's $5 million in non-recurring funding. We have an issue around Blue Oval in Haywood County. Those roads were not built for the weight and amount of traffic on them, and they're really crumbling. So this grant would allow them to address that infrastructure issue. And there's $10 million for the Nuclear Development Fund, which we set up last year with a $50 million allocation. There's an additional $10 million being placed in that. We're taking care of our state employees in this budget. It includes a total of $64.2 million for a 3% pool for raises for Team Act and non-Team Act employees. And one of the things that this legislature has done that I think has been very successful back home for all of us is to set up a grant pool for organizations like our volunteer fire departments, rescue squads, EMS, so forth. We're going to continue that this year. The governor's budget had $5 million for volunteer fire department equipment grants. We are putting another $5 million in that for a total of 10 in that grant pool. Rescue squads, the legislature, this is our grant that we're proposing in the budget. Rescue squads, $3 million for equipment. That's the same that we did last year. $2 million for EMS, which is also the same amount we did last year. And another very successful program that we started last year was grants to museums across the state. Those grants are managed by the Tennessee State Museum. They've done a great job. Kudos to Ashley Howell and her team. And I think that they have really stepped up and allowed a lot of museums, particularly smaller ones across the state, to get some funding for things like HVAC systems and roofs and things that just keep them open and in business. We have had grants for senior citizens in the budget for quite some time, always as a legislative initiative, continues to be a legislative initiative, but it's been $1 million for a number of years. We're upping that to $3 million this year because we have a number of senior citizen centers across the state. $1 million doesn't go very far in that against all of those. So we will be increasing that significantly. And last year we set up an honor guard fund to allow veteran service organizations to use this fund to offset the expenses that they have when they provide military funeral honors for Tennessee veterans. That was $75,000 in last year's budget. We're adding $15,000 this year. And with that, Mr. Chairman, recognizing that a lot of folks heard me drone on either in person or hopefully watching online for the subcommittee presentation, I would just stop and ask for any questions.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Chairman. I didn't raise my hand, but I'll take this opportunity. And thank you, Madam Chair Lady, for all your hard work on the budget. I'm sure it was taxing, but you know, as you do every year, you got it done. My question is, the money that was allotted for the voucher bill, I think it was from the governor. What did we do with that money? Where is it? Did we park it somewhere, or do we have an opportunity to use it, or what are we doing?
The Education Scholarship Fund, that $144 million, those discussions are ongoing. We are setting that money aside. It is not expended in this budget. If if the House and the Senate come to some conclusion that is supported by both entities, and that money will be utilized. If not, then that money will it will be, as you said, parked there. It will be available should we need additional monies for budget shortfall, or it will be there waiting for us next year when we come back and will help us to have additional funding in next year's budget. But we are not allocating those funds.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Madam Chair. Just a quick follow up. So procedurally, if there was an agreement between the chambers, then we'd be doing another amendment to this budget to incorporate that $144 million into this budget.
No,
that
the
how that will-
budget, the dollars are here. They're
Okay.
just not allocated.
Yes, ma'am.
So any agreement would have to live within that $144 million that is set aside for that.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't have any other names on my list. I'm going to take just a moment on behalf of the committee to thank Chair Lady Hazelwood and Chairman Hicks and Chairman Williams, as well as their staff, Krista, Myrna, Joel, and Jessica, for their hard work on this budget. We're voting on it quickly, but that's because several of us have heard it a couple of other times this afternoon, but a lot of time went into developing it, late night negotiations with the Senate that I didn't have to stay up for. If there's no other discussion, then we are voting on sending House Bill 2973 to calendar and rules. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Bill moves to calendar and rules. Item number 2 on our agenda is House Bill 2971 by
Motion.
Chair Lady Hazelwood. You have a motion and a second. Chair Lady Hazelwood, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill just makes the statutory changes that will be necessary to implement the budget.
Any questions or discussion? If not, then we're voting to send House Bill 2971 to calendar and rules. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, and the bill moves to calendar and rules. Item number 3 on our agenda is House Bill 2972 by Chair Lady Hazelwood. We have a motion and a second. Chair Lady Hazelwood, you're recognized. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, we have an amendment. Amendment number 1 has drafting code 014000 by Leader Lamberth. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This recognizes no additional debt or bond approval for the state. It does recognize movement within bonds that have been previously been authorized by the legislature.
Any discussion on the amendment? If not, then we're voting to put amendment 014000 on the bill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The amendment goes on the bill. Chair Lady Hazelwood, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you. This is the bond bill, and as Leader Lamberth has already mentioned, there's no new debt authorized in this budget. There is a repurposing of a prior authorization that was covered in the amendment that we just passed. But this is the bill that we pass each year, even though we're not planning to incur any debt. This is the amendment that gives us it's fiscally responsible to pass this in case there becomes some sort of cash flow issue, particularly with the Department of Transportation, should they have a cash flow issue as they're building and paying for roads. So this would authorize the funding board to issue bonds in amounts not to exceed 2.5% of the amounts that were specified for a funding discount and cost of issuance. So with that, I would ask for approval.
Any discussion? If not, then we're voting to send House Bill 2972 to calendar and rules. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Bill goes to calendar and rules.
Right, that does complete our calendar for today. I would like to say thank you to all the members of this committee. We have spent a lot of time in budget hearings and in meetings this year. I appreciate your time, your attention, and your presence. I want to thank Charlie has thanked the staff and other leadership members of this committee, but I want to take this opportunity to thank Charlie for Representative Baum for his work as vice chair. He is much better than the former vice chair of this committee, which was moi. Do thank him for his work. And with that, I would recognize Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members' calendar and rules will meet tonight after session. We will have two calendars. We will have a budget calendar, and then your office should have a regular calendar that has 18 bills. So if you have a bill on that regular calendar, you need to be here tonight immediately following session. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And a reminder, session will begin at 5:30. Session at 5:30 with calendar and rules immediately following. With that, we stand in recess.